Commander Bell looked out at the stars from the main deck of the Lumerian ship Lightseeker. His slender fingers gripped the edge of the viewing panel as another explosion rocked a nearby vessel. The Lumerian escape fleet was running out of time. "Report," Bell ordered, his soft voice barely rising above the hum of the ship's engines. Officer Nim hurried over, holding a data pad in trembling hands. "3 more colony ships lost, Commander. The Void Hunters have destroyed our rear guard." Bell closed his large amber eyes for a moment. The Lumerians had never been fighters. Their homeworld, with its low gravity and gentle climate, had not forced them to develop the strength or aggression needed for war. Their tall, thin bodies were built for thought and creation, not battle. "How many ships remain?" Bell asked. 23, Commander, carrying just under 15,000 survivors. Bell nodded slowly. 15,000 out of a colony of nearly 100,000. The Void Hunters had struck without warning, their massive black ships appearing near the Lumerian settlement on Elda 5 just 3 days ago. The attack had been ruthless and quick. "They're jamming our long-range communication." "Again," Communications Officer Trell called from her station. "We can't reach the Celestial Alliance." The Celestials were the Lumerians' closest allies, a peaceful civilization that had helped them establish colonies across this sector of space. If they could just get word to them. "Commander," Trell continued, her voice suddenly higher with excitement, "there might be a way to bypass the jamming. We could use the old emergency band and boost it through the damaged relay station near the asteroid belt." Bell moved quickly to her station. "Would that work?" "The signal would be weak and might become corrupted," Trell explained. "But the SOS pattern is simple. Anyone who receives it would recognize a call for help." "Do it," Bell ordered, without hesitation. "We have no other choice." Trell's fingers flew across the control panel, preparing the message. It was simple: their coordinates, a brief explanation of their situation, and the universal distress code recognized by all civilized species in the known galaxy. "Ready, Commander." Bell placed his hand on the transmission panel. "Send it." "May it reach the Celestials quickly." Trell activated the signal. The viewing screen showed the energy pulse shooting toward the damaged relay station that orbited a nearby asteroid. For a moment it seemed to work perfectly. Then a sudden burst of cosmic radiation, a common occurrence in this unstable region of space, hit the signal just as it passed through the relay. "No," Trell cried out. "The signal, it's been corrupted." "Can you fix it?" Bell asked urgently. Trell shook her head. "It's already gone, Commander. Parts of the message are scrambled, including the recipient codes that would have directed it to celestial space." "Where will it go?" Bell asked, dread filling his voice. "I don't know," Trell admitted. "It's still broadcasting our coordinates and the distress pattern, but it could reach anyone now." Bell turned back to the viewing window. In the distance, the massive ships of the Void Hunters grew closer. They were toying with the Lumerians now, destroying one ship at a time, enjoying the fear they caused. "Prepare the remaining ships for another jump," Bell ordered. "We need to stay ahead of them for as long as possible." As the Lumerian fleet prepared to flee once more, their corrupted distress signal traveled through space, bouncing off cosmic debris and radiation fields carried far beyond its intended path. Captain James Stone of the Earth Alliance battlecruiser Dauntless was reviewing the daily reports when Lieutenant Park interrupted him. "Captain, we've picked up something strange on the deep space channels." Stone looked up from his desk. At 45, he was considered young for a captain of a Class A battlecruiser. But 15 years of service in the Earth Alliance Navy had earned him the respect of his crew and his superiors. "What kind of strange?" Stone asked, setting down his tablet. "A partial transmission, sir. Heavily corrupted, but it contains what appears to be a universal distress pattern." Stone stood immediately. Humans had been exploring deep space for less than a century, and in that time they had encountered only 3 other intelligent species. None of them had sent distress calls to Earth ships before. "Show me," he ordered, following Park to the bridge. The Dauntless was the flagship of Battle Group 7, currently patrolling the outer reach of human-controlled space. They were at the edge of known territory, tasked with mapping new sectors and showing the flag to any potentially hostile forces. On the main screen of the bridge, Communications Officer Martinez had isolated the strange signal. Most of it was static and garbled data, but a clear pattern repeated every few seconds, the universal symbol for distress that all spacefaring civilizations agreed upon. "Can you clean it up?" Stone asked. Martinez shook her head. "This is the best I can do, sir, but I did manage to extract what looks like coordinates." "Put them on screen." A star map appeared, with a blinking red dot marking a location far outside human space. "That's at least a 2-week journey at maximum speed, Captain," First Officer Adams noted, "and well beyond our patrol zone." Stone studied the coordinates carefully. "Are we sure this is real? Not some kind of trap?" "The signal bears markers of natural corruption, sir," Martinez replied. "If someone faked this, they did an excellent job of making it look like it passed through a radiation field." Stone nodded slowly. Humanity's short history in space had taught them caution, but also the importance of responding to distress calls. It was one of the first laws passed by the Earth Alliance. All distress signals must be investigated if possible. "Contact Admiral West," Stone decided. "We need approval to change course." 20 minutes later, Stone stood before the holographic image of Admiral West, who commanded all Earth forces in this sector. "You're certain about this signal, Captain Stone?" the Admiral asked, her face serious. "As certain as we can be, ma'am. Someone out there needs help." Admiral West was silent for a moment, thinking. "You realize you could be walking into anything. We know almost nothing about that region of space." "Yes, ma'am, but the distress protocol is clear." West nodded. "So, it is very well, Captain. Battle Group 7 is authorized to investigate, but approach with extreme caution. If there's any sign of a trap, you pull back immediately." "Understood, Admiral." After the transmission ended, Stone returned to the bridge and gave the order. "Set course for the coordinates in the distress signal. Maximum speed." As the 5 ships of Battle Group 7 changed direction and accelerated to their top speed, none of the humans aboard realized they were responding to a call never meant for them. They didn't know they were about to encounter 2 alien species, one desperate for salvation, the other intent on destruction. And neither of those alien species had ever encountered humans before. They had no idea that they were about to meet beings from a high-gravity world, where constant environmental threats had forged a physically stronger, more resilient species than most in the galaxy. The humans were coming, and they were bringing with them all the strength, endurance, and fighting spirit that evolution on a Deathworld had given them. The battlecruiser Dauntless led the way, its massive engines pushing it faster than any Lumerian ship could travel. Captain Stone stood on the bridge watching the stars streak by, wondering what they would find at the end of their journey. 2 weeks to destination, sir," Adams reported. Stone nodded. "All ships to battle readiness level 2. I want weapon systems checked daily and combat drills for all crew. Whatever's waiting for us out there will be ready." Little did he know that the Lumerians were counting down the days until their inevitable capture by the Void Hunters. Their corrupted distress call, sent to the wrong part of space, had reached the most dangerous allies they could have hoped for. Help was coming, but it was coming in a form they could never have expected. 2 weeks passed quickly aboard the human ships. The crew of the Dauntless spent their days preparing for whatever they might find at the source of the distress signal. No one knew what to expect, but Captain Stone made sure they would be ready for anything. "Dropping out of faster-than-light travel in 30 seconds, announced the navigator. Captain Stone stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. All hands to battle stations, shields at maximum. The 5 ships of Battle Group 7 slowed as they entered normal space. Immediately, their sensors began scanning the area. "Captain," Lieutenant Martinez called out, "I'm detecting multiple ships ahead, 2 different types, smaller vessels fleeing from larger ones." Stone moved to the main viewing screen. "Show me." The screen flickered to life, displaying a scene of chaos. About 20 small, sleek ships with shimmering silver hulls were trying to escape from 5 much larger black vessels. The black ships were firing energy weapons at the smaller ones, destroying them one by one. "Life signs?" Stone asked. "Both groups show non-human life forms, sir," reported Science Officer Wilson. "The ones in the silver ships appear physically fragile, Low bone density, minimal muscle mass. The others in the black ships are more robust, though still not as dense as human physiology. Stone nodded. It seems we've stumbled into someone else's war. First Officer Adams approached the captain. Sir, the distress signal came from the silver ships. Protocol says we should assist them. Agreed, Stone said. But let's be cautious. We don't know the full situation yet. He turned to communications. Lieutenant Martinez, can you establish contact with the silver ships? Working on it now, sir. While Martinez worked, Stone issued orders to the rest of Battle Group 7. The 5 human ships spread out in a defensive formation, still at a safe distance from the conflict. I've established a connection, Captain, Martinez announced. Their language is different, but their ship's computer seems to be translating. Put it through. The main screen changed to show the face of Commander Bell. The alien looked almost human, but with key differences. Skin that was almost translucent, large amber eyes, and an elongated head. Bell's expression showed clear shock at seeing Stone. This is Captain James Stone of the Earth Alliance battlecruiser Dauntless. We received your distress signal. Do you require assistance? Bell stared in disbelief before finding his voice. You are humans? From Earth? That's correct, Stone confirmed. And you are? I am Commander Bell of the Lumarian Refugee Fleet. Bell's voice trembled slightly. Our signal was meant for our allies, the Celestials. We never expected Deathworlders to respond. Stone raised an eyebrow. Deathworlders? It is what we call species who evolved on high-gravity planets with extreme environmental dangers, Bell explained quickly. Your kind is known in legends, but few Lumarians believed humans actually existed. Before Stone could respond, Martinez spoke up. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the attacking ships. On screen, Stone ordered. But keep the line to Commander Bell open. The screen split to show another alien face. This one was darker, with a heavy brow and rows of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the voice was deep and threatening. This is Hunt Leader Krall of the Void Hunters. These Lumarians are our prey. Leave now, or be destroyed with them. Stone kept his expression neutral. This is Captain Stone of the Earth Alliance. The Lumarians have requested our help. What grievance do you have with them? Krall laughed, a harsh sound. Grievance? We need no grievance. The weak exist to be harvested by the strong. It is the way of the universe. His eyes narrowed. What manner of species are you? You look soft, like the Lumarians. We are humans, Stone answered simply. For the first time, Krall looked uncertain. Humans? The Deathworlders from the legends? Then he laughed again. Impossible. Deathworlders are myths created by weak species to frighten children. Stone ignored the taunt. I am ordering you to cease your attack on the Lumarian ships immediately. You dare give orders to the Void Hunters? Krall snarled. Your 5 ships against our battle fleet? You will learn your place, human, if that is truly what you are. The transmission ended abruptly. Stone turned back to Commander Bell, who looked even more terrified now. Tell me what's happening here, Commander, quickly. Bell took a deep breath. The Void Hunters attacked our colony without warning 3 weeks ago. They killed most of our people. We are all that remains, the last of our colony. They hunt us for sport and for resources. Resources? Stone asked. Bell looked down. Our bodies contain elements they value. They process us for these materials. A grim silence fell over the human bridge. Captain, First Officer Adams said quietly, the Void Hunter ships are changing formation. They're moving toward us. Stone nodded. Alert Admiral West of our situation. Then have all ships form a barrier between the Lumarians and the Void Hunters. He turned back to Bell. Commander, move your fleet behind our ships. We'll protect you. Bell's eyes widened. Captain Stone, you don't understand. The Void Hunters have superior technology. They've destroyed entire worlds. They've never fought humans before, Stone replied. Trust me, Commander, get your people to safety. After the transmission ended, Stone addressed his crew. All hands prepare for combat. This is not a drill. Throughout the Dauntless, men and women rushed to their stations. In the weapons bay, Lieutenant Reed assembled her team. "What are we up against, Lieutenant?" asked one of the younger Marines. Reed adjusted her battle armor. "Aliens who think they're predators. Time to show them what real predators look like." Back on the bridge, Stone watched as the Void Hunter ships approached. He had studied the scans of their vessels and noted both their strengths and weaknesses. "Sir," Wilson reported, "I've analyzed their ships. Their armor is impressive, but their maneuvering thrusters are exposed. A targeted strike could disable them." Stone nodded. "Good work. Share that information with all ships." The Lumerian vessels moved behind the human formation, their silver hulls reflecting the light of the distant stars. From the Lightseeker, Commander Bell watched in amazement as the much smaller human fleet positioned itself between them and the Void Hunters. "Will they actually fight for us?" Officer Nim asked, standing beside Bell. "They don't even know us." "They answered our distress call," Bell said quietly. "That means something to them." On the Dauntless, Captain Stone opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Captain Stone. We came here to answer a call for help, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The Void Hunters believe that the strong should prey on the weak. Let's show them what happens when they pick on someone their own size. Battle Group 7 weapons free." The 5 human ships, though smaller than the Void Hunter vessels, moved with precision and speed that surprised both alien species. The Dauntless led the formation, its engines glowing as it accelerated toward the enemy. The first shots were fired by the Void Hunters, powerful energy beams that streaked across space toward the human ships. But the Earth vessels were faster than they looked, changing direction with an agility that the bulky Void Hunter ships couldn't match. From his command chair, Hunt Leader Krall watched in growing concern as the human ships evaded his first attack. "What are these creatures?" he growled. "No matter. Increase power to forward cannons. Destroy them all." The battle had begun, and as the Lumerians watched from a safe distance, they witnessed something they had never seen before. Another species, fighting to protect them, with a ferocity and skill born from thousands of years of evolution on a world that had never stopped trying to kill them. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they had come to help. Aliens sent an SOS to the wrong species. Deathworlder fleet replied. Part 3. The Battle. The space between the stars lit up with energy beams and missile trails as the battle began. The 5 human ships moved with surprising speed and coordination against the larger Void Hunter vessels. "Evasive pattern Delta," Captain Stone ordered calmly as the Dauntless rolled to avoid another energy blast. "Target their port thrusters and fire." The human ship's weapons officer responded immediately, launching a barrage of missiles that streaked toward the lead Void Hunter vessel. 3 of the 5 missiles hit their target, causing explosions that rocked the alien ship. "Direct hit, Captain," First Officer Adams reported. "Their port thrusters are damaged." Stone nodded. "Good. Now they can't turn as quickly to their left. All ships, exploit that weakness." Aboard the Void Hunter command ship, Hunt Leader Krall slammed his fist on his control panel. "How are they so accurate? These humans move like water." His weapons officer looked up nervously. "Their reaction time is unusual, Hunt Leader, and their ships are built for speed rather than power." "I don't care what they're built for," Krall snarled. "Destroy them." The Void Hunters intensified their attack, launching a wave of fighter craft from their larger vessels. The smaller fighters flew toward the human ships, their weapons charging. Stone watched the new threat approach. "Launch interceptors. Have them engage the fighters while we continue focusing on their capital ships." Smaller craft shot out from the human vessels, piloted by expert fighter pilots. The space around the larger ships became a chaotic dance of small craft dueling at incredible speeds. In one of the human interceptors, Flight Lieutenant Rodriguez spun her craft in a tight spiral, avoiding enemy fire while lining up her shot. "These guys are big but slow," she said to her wingman over the comm. "Use that against them." The human fighters darted between the larger Void Hunter fighters, using their superior maneuverability to devastating effect. One by one, the alien fighters began to explode or drift powerless in space. Meanwhile, the battle between the larger ships continued. Two of the human vessels focused their fire on one Void Hunter ship, their coordinated attack overwhelming its shields. "Their lead ship is disabled, Captain," Adams reported, "and our other battle groups report similar success." Stone nodded. "Good, but don't get overconfident. These Void Hunters aren't giving up yet." He was right. Crawl, seeing one of his ships, badly damaged, ordered a new tactic. "Concentrate all fire on the human flagship. Ignore the others for now." 3 Void Hunter vessels turned their massive weapons toward the Dauntless, unleashing a barrage that made the shields of the human ship glow bright blue, with the strain of absorbing so much energy. "Shields at 60% and falling," reported the tactical officer. Stone gripped the arms of his command chair. "Reroute emergency power to shields. All other battle group ships continue the attack on their vessels. Don't worry about us." The Dauntless shuddered as another blast hit its shields. Stone knew they couldn't take much more of this concentrated firepower. "Sir, I have an idea." Lieutenant Reed's voice came over the comm. Reed was the leader of the ship's marine unit, stationed in the launch bay with her team. "Let me take a strike team across to their disabled ship. If we can capture it, we might learn more about their weaknesses." Stone considered this for only a moment. "Approved, Lieutenant, but be careful. We know nothing about their internal defenses." "That's what makes it fun, sir," Reed replied with a grim smile that Stone couldn't see. Within minutes, Reed and a team of 12 Marines boarded a small armored shuttle and launched from the Dauntless toward the disabled Void Hunter vessel. Using the chaos of the larger battle as cover, they approached the enemy ship undetected. "Look for an entry point," Reed ordered her pilot as they circled the massive black hull. "There, a damaged section near what looks like a docking bay." The shuttle slipped through the opening, landing in a half-destroyed hangar. Reed and her team, dressed in full battle armor, moved out quickly, weapons ready. "Remember, we're in their gravity and atmosphere now," Reed warned. "Stay alert for any surprises." They encountered their first Void Hunters almost immediately, a group of 4 aliens rushing to repair damage to their ship. The aliens were tall and muscular with dark skin and predatory features. They looked strong, and they were by the standards of most species in the galaxy. But they weren't humans. The Void Hunters raised their weapons, but Reed and her team were faster. 2 of the aliens fell immediately to precise shots. The other 2 charged forward, apparently confident in their physical superiority. Reed met the charge head-on, surprising the alien with her speed and strength. The Void Hunter outweighed her by at least 50 pounds, but Reed had been born and raised on Earth, a high-gravity world that had shaped humanity for thousands of generations. She blocked the alien's attack and struck back with a quick blow, to what she hoped was a vulnerable spot. The Void Hunter staggered back, clearly shocked by her strength. "Not so weak after all, am I?" Reed said, pressing her advantage. The rest of her team made similarly short work of the remaining aliens. The humans moved deeper into the ship, fighting their way toward what their scans suggested was the bridge. Back in space, the main battle had shifted in favor of the humans. With 1 Void Hunter ship disabled and now being boarded, the others were fighting defensively, trying to protect their damaged companion. From the Lumerian vessels watching at a safe distance, Commander Bell and his crew stared in amazement. "How is this possible?" Officer Nim whispered. "The Void Hunters have never been defeated before." Bell shook his head slowly, "because they've never fought Deathworlders before." He turned to his communications officer. "Are you recording all of this? The Celestials will never believe it otherwise." On the disabled Void Hunter ship, Lieutenant Reed and her team fought their way to the bridge. The aliens they encountered were fierce but unprepared for the speed, strength, and tactical thinking of the human Marines. They're not used to fighting enemies who can actually hurt them, Reed realized as they secured another corridor. They're used to hunting prey, not facing predators. Finally, they reached the bridge. After a short but intense firefight, Reed stood over the ship's commander, a wounded void hunter who glared up at her with hatred and confusion. "How?" the alien demanded. "You are smaller than us. You should be weaker." Reed smiled behind her helmet. "Size isn't everything. It's what your planet throws at you that matters." She tapped her comm unit. "Captain Stone, we've secured the bridge of the enemy vessel, awaiting further orders." On the Dauntless, Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Well done, Lieutenant. Download whatever data you can from their systems. We need to know more about these Void Hunters." The battle outside continued, but now the remaining Void Hunter ships were in full retreat. With one of their vessels captured, and 2 others badly damaged, Hunt Leader Krall made the difficult decision. "Fall back," he ordered, his voice tight with rage. "Regroup at the staging point." As the 3 remaining Void Hunter ships turned and accelerated away from the battle, cheers erupted throughout the human fleet. They had faced an unknown enemy with superior numbers and technology, and won. Stone opened a channel to Commander Bell. "The immediate threat has been dealt with, Commander. Your people are safe for now." Bell's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mixture of awe and relief. "Captain Stone, there are no words to express our gratitude. You and your kind have saved us from extinction." "We responded to a distress call," Stone said simply. "That's what humans do." As the human fleet regrouped, tending to their wounded and repairing damage, Lieutenant Reed's team continued exploring the captured Void Hunter vessel, sending valuable data back to the Dauntless. And far away, the retreating Void Hunters sent urgent messages to their home fleet. They had encountered a new species, one that defied their understanding of the galaxy, one that had humiliated them in battle. The Deathworlders were real, and they had made a powerful enemy today. The day after the battle, Captain Stone stood in a conference room aboard the Dauntless, studying a holographic display of the star system. Around him were his senior officers and Admiral West, who appeared via secure communication from her command, ship now rushing to join them. "The Void Hunters will return," Stone said, pointing to several possible approach vectors, "and next time they'll bring more ships." Admiral West nodded from her screen. "I agree. We've analyzed the data Lieutenant Reed recovered from the captured vessel. The Void Hunters have a large fleet spread across several systems. They're calling for reinforcements as we speak." First Officer Adams looked up from her datapad. "How long do we have?" 3 days, maybe 4, replied Science Officer Wilson. "Their nearest major base is in this system." He pointed to a star about 2 light years away. Stone turned to Communications Officer Martinez. "Any word from the Celestials? Have they responded to Commander Bell's messages?" "Yes, sir. They've acknowledged and are sending ships, but they're over a week away." Stone nodded. "Then we need to prepare for another battle while we wait for reinforcements." He looked at the Admiral. "Ma'am, what are our orders regarding the Lumerians?" Admiral West's expression was serious. "Earth Command has reviewed the situation. Our official position is to protect the Lumerians and establish formal contact. This is our first opportunity for a genuine alliance with another species. We can't waste it." "Understood," Stone replied. "I'll arrange a meeting with Commander Bell today." After the briefing ended, Stone prepared to visit the Lumerian command ship. He selected a small delegation: himself, First Officer Adams, Science Officer Wilson, and Lieutenant Reed, whose actions in boarding the enemy ship had earned her recognition. They traveled in a shuttle to the Lightseeker, the main Lumerian vessel. As they approached, they could see the sleek silver ship up close for the first time. It was beautiful, with flowing lines that seemed more artistic than functional. "Their design philosophy is different from ours," Wilson observed. "Form over function. When you don't evolve on a death world," Reed replied, "you can afford to be pretty." The shuttle docked at an airlock, and the human delegation was met by a group of Lumerians. In person, the aliens were even more striking, tall and slender, with graceful movements and large, expressive eyes. They led the humans through corridors decorated with intricate patterns of light to a meeting chamber. Commander Bell stood as they entered. "Captain Stone, welcome aboard the Lightseeker." We are honored by your presence. Stone nodded respectfully. The honor is ours, Commander. Thank you for hosting us. As they sat around a circular table, Stone noticed how the Lumerians moved carefully, as if the humans' mere presence made them nervous. He tried to appear less intimidating, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. I must admit, Bell began, many of my people are still processing what happened yesterday. The Void Hunters were thought to be unstoppable, yet your ships defeated them. We had the advantage of surprise, Stone said modestly. They won't underestimate us next time. Bell's large eyes blinked slowly. Next time? You believe they will return? We know they will, Stone confirmed. They're calling for reinforcements. A murmur of concern passed through the Lumerians. Bell leaned forward. Then we must flee immediately. Our remaining ships can... Commander, Stone interrupted. Gently, running isn't the answer. They'll just keep hunting you. We need to stand and fight together. Together? Bell seemed confused. But why would you continue to risk your lives for us? You've done more than enough already. First Officer Adams spoke up. It's what we do, Commander. On Earth we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Bell considered this. A wise philosophy. But you must understand, Captain, we Lumerians are not fighters. Our species evolved on a gentle world with few predators and abundant resources. We became builders, thinkers, healers, but never warriors. You don't need to be warriors, Stone replied. We can handle the fighting, but we need to know more about you, your technology, your knowledge of this region of space. Science Officer Wilson added, our scans show your ships have advanced medical facilities and agricultural systems far beyond our own. We could learn much from each other. Bell's expression changed, showing surprise and then understanding. Ah, I see. An exchange of knowledge. An alliance, Stone corrected. My government has authorized me to propose a formal relationship between our species. Protection in exchange for technological and scientific cooperation. The Lumerians conferred among themselves in their own language for a few moments before Bell turned back to Stone. We would be honored to form such an alliance, Captain. I would like to show you something that might be of particular interest to humans. Bell led them to another part of the ship, a large hydroponics bay where plants of various colors grew in spiraling patterns. This is our food production system. It can grow enough food for 1,000 Lumerians in this one room, using minimal resources. Wilson examined the system with obvious excitement. Incredible efficiency. This could revolutionize food production in Earth's more crowded colonies. Bell nodded. And this is our medical bay. They entered a room filled with advanced equipment. Our healing technology can repair injuries and cure diseases that once plagued our people. Amazing, Adams whispered, watching as a Lumerian doctor demonstrated a device that closed a wound instantly without leaving a scar. Lieutenant Reed, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. Commander Bell, may I ask a personal question? Bell turned to her. Of course, Lieutenant. You said your people evolved on a gentle world. How did that shape your society? Your history? Bell considered this for a moment. We have never known war among ourselves, Lieutenant. Until the Void Hunters came, we had not experienced violence on a large scale for thousands of years. He paused. I understand this is different from human history. Reed nodded. Very different. Would you tell me about your world? Bell asked. About Earth? So while Stone, Adams, and Wilson continued exploring the Lumerian ship with other guides, Reed sat with Bell in a quiet observation room, telling him about humanity's long, often violent history. Our planet tried to kill us in 1,000 ways, she explained. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, extreme climates. It made us tough, adaptable. When we weren't fighting our environment, we often fought each other. Bell listened with a mixture of horror and fascination. And yet you came to help us, strangers, without hesitation. That's the other side of being human, Reed said. Yes, we can be violent, but we also have incredible empathy. Maybe because we know suffering so well, We try to prevent it in others when we can. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the Dauntless. Stone answered immediately. "Captain, long-range sensors have detected multiple ships entering the system," reported the tactical officer. "Void Hunter signatures. They've arrived early." Stone looked at Bell, whose expression showed fear but also a new resolve. "How many ships?" 12, sir. More than twice what we faced before." Stone nodded grimly. "Alert all ships, battle stations." He turned to Bell. "It seems our new alliance will be tested sooner than expected, Commander." Bell stood straighter, summoning courage. "What can we do to help?" "Your ships don't have weapons, but they do have advanced sensors and shields," Stone said. "Can your people coordinate with ours? Share tactical data in real time?" "Yes," Bell replied without hesitation. "We can modify our systems to connect with yours." Stone smiled. "Then let's get to work. We have a lot to do before they arrive." As the humans returned to their shuttle, Reed paused beside Bell. "Commander, there's something you should know about humans." "What is that, Lieutenant?" "We're at our best when things are at their worst." She gave him a confident smile. "The Void Hunters have no idea what they're in for." As the human shuttle departed, Bell watched through the viewing port. These strange, strong creatures from a deadly world had changed everything in just 2 days. For the first time since the Void Hunters attacked their colony, Bell felt something new: hope. The Deathworlders were scary, yes, but they were on his side now. The 12 Void Hunter ships appeared at the edge of the system, their black hulls absorbing the distant Starlight. They moved in tight formation, weapons charged and ready for revenge. Hunt Leader Krall stood on the bridge of his new flagship, his previous vessel having been captured by the humans. The humiliation of that defeat still burned in his chest. "Display the enemy formation," he ordered. A holographic image appeared, showing the 5 human ships positioned in a defensive line in front of the Lumerian vessels. Behind them, the captured Void Hunter ship now flew human colors. "They dare to use one of our own ships against us," Krall growled. "They will pay for their arrogance." His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Hunt Leader, we've received new information about these humans. They come from a high-gravity world with extreme environmental conditions. Our databases classify their home planet as a Class 5 death world." Krall's eyes narrowed. "So the legends were true. It matters not. We have them outnumbered more than 2 to 1. But sir, the last time we were unprepared," Krall snapped. "This time we know what we face." He turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the attack." On the Dauntless, Captain Stone watched the approaching enemy fleet with calm resolve. The past 3 days had been spent in intense preparation. The human and Lumerian crews had worked around the clock to integrate their systems and develop new tactics. "They're coming in fast," First Officer Adams reported. "Formation suggests they'll try to overwhelm us with numbers." Stone nodded. "Just as we expected." He opened a channel to the Lumerian command ship. "Commander Bell, are your sensors ready?" Bell's face appeared on the screen. "Yes, Captain. We're tracking all 12 enemy vessels and feeding the data to your tactical systems in real time." "Excellent. Maintain position behind our defensive line. Your shields should hold if any of them break through." Bell's expression was solemn but determined. "Good luck, Captain. We're counting on you." Stone turned to communications. "Open a channel to all human ships." When Martinez nodded, he addressed his fleet. "This is Captain Stone. We've faced these enemies before and beaten them. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for our new allies. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and watch out for each other. Battle Group 7. Engage at will." The human ships moved forward to meet the Void Hunter fleet. This time, there was no hesitation on either side. Space erupted with weapons fire as the 2 forces collided. The Void Hunters had learned from their previous defeat and focused their attack on the flanks of the human formation, trying to get around them to the vulnerable Lumerian ships behind. "They're trying to split us up," Adams observed. Let them try, Stone replied. Lieutenant Reed, is your team ready? Reed's voice came through clear over the comm. Ready and waiting, Captain. Execute Operation Trojan on the captured Void Hunter ship, now renamed Defiance. Lieutenant Reed and her team of Marines waited as their vessel appeared to drift away from the main battle, as if damaged. The ship had been carefully modified over the past days, with Lumerian stealth technology integrated into its systems. They're taking the bait, Reed said as her tactical display showed 2 Void Hunter ships breaking off to intercept them. Charging weapons. Wait for them to get closer. The Void Hunters approached, cautiously but confidently, believing they were about to recapture one of their own ships. They didn't realize that while the outside looked the same, the inside now contained a crew of determined humans and several of the Lumerians' most advanced technological systems. Now, Reed ordered. The Defiance suddenly came to life, its engines flaring as it accelerated directly toward the nearest Void Hunter ship. At the same time, hidden weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing new weapons developed by combining human and Lumerian technology. The Void Hunters, caught by surprise, tried to turn away, but it was too late. The Defiance fired, blue-white energy beams cutting through the enemy shields like they weren't there. Direct hit, shouted Reed's weapons officer. Their main power core is destabilizing. The first Void Hunter ship exploded in a flash of light, while the second turned to flee, only to run straight into the waiting guns of another human vessel. Back in the main battle, the human ships were holding their own despite being outnumbered. The Lumerian sensors gave them a crucial edge, allowing them to predict enemy movements and target vulnerable systems with pinpoint accuracy. The Defiance has taken out 2 enemy ships, Adams reported, and our other vessels have disabled 3 more. That's 5 down, 7 to go. Stone nodded. Signal all ships to execute Maneuver Delta. Let's finish this. The human fleet suddenly changed formation, confusing the Void Hunters who had been trying to predict their movements. The Earthship seemed to be retreating, pulling back toward the Lumerian position. Hunt Leader Krall saw this as an opportunity. They're falling back. Press the attack. Destroy them all. The Void Hunter fleet surged forward, eager to finish off what they saw as a weakening enemy. They didn't notice that the Lumerian ships had moved into a specific pattern, their advanced shield systems humming with power. They're in position, Bell's voice came through to Stone. Ready when you are, Captain. Now, Commander. The Lumerian ships activated their modified shield technology, creating a massive energy field that trapped the pursuing Void Hunter vessels. At the same time, the human ships turned sharply and attacked from all sides. Caught in the Lumerian energy field, the Void Hunter ships couldn't maneuver properly. Their weapons fire was absorbed by the field while the human weapons passed through, specifically calibrated to the field's frequency. It was over in minutes. 3 more Void Hunter ships were destroyed and the remaining 4, including Krall's flagship, were severely damaged. Void Hunter command vessel is hailing us, Martinez reported. Put them through, Stone ordered. Krall's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. How? How is this possible? You are so few, and we are many. Stone's reply was calm. Quality over quantity, Hunt Leader. Your ships are retreating. I suggest you join them while you still can. Krall snarled but said nothing more. The transmission ended abruptly. They're withdrawing from the system, Adams confirmed moments later. All 4 remaining vessels. A cheer went up throughout the bridge. Stone allowed himself a small smile before opening a channel to the Lumerian ship. Commander Bell, the enemy is retreating. Your people are safe. Bell's face showed wonder and gratitude. Captain Stone, you have done the impossible twice. The Lumerian people will never forget this. 1 week later, a new ship arrived in the system, the lead vessel of the Celestial Alliance, the faction the Lumerians had originally tried to contact. The Celestials were shocked to find their gentle friends now working side by side with legendary Deathworlders. In the main conference room of the Dauntless, Captain Stone sat with Commander Bell as they welcomed the Celestial Ambassador, a being of light and energy contained in a crystalline form. We received your distress call, the ambassador said to Bell, "but it seems you found unexpected help." Bell nodded. "The best kind of help, Ambassador. The humans have protected us, shared their strength, and asked only for friendship in return." The ambassador turned to Stone. "Captain, the Celestial Alliance has heard many stories about Earth and its people. Some call you dangerous, others call you unpredictable. We can be both," Stone acknowledged, "but we can also be loyal allies and friends." The ambassador seemed to consider this. "Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to rethink its view of Deathworlders. Your actions here speak louder than any legend." After the meeting, Stone and Bell stood at a viewing window, watching as human and Lumerian crews worked together to repair damaged ships and prepare for the journey to Earth, where the Lumerian refugees would find a temporary home. "Do you think the Void Hunters will return?" Bell asked. Stone nodded. "Eventually, but next time they'll face not just humans, but a united front of multiple species. Thanks to you, we've made our first real allies in space." Bell smiled, a human gesture he had recently learned. "All because our distress signal went to the wrong species." "Or maybe," Stone replied, "it went to exactly the right one." Far away, across the stars, Earth prepared to welcome its first alien visitors. And throughout the galaxy, news spread of the Deathworlders who had defeated the Void Hunters, not to conquer or destroy, but to protect a species that couldn't protect itself. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, all because a distress call had found its way to the wrong species, or perhaps, as many would later say, to exactly the right one. Jack Miller stood alone on the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, staring at the vast blackness of space. His reflection in the glass showed a man with tired eyes and a stubborn jaw. 3 silver bars on his shoulder. Once, there had been 5. The demotion still stung after 6 months. "Pilot Miller," a voice called from behind him. "Your new assignment has arrived." Jack turned to face Captain Brooks, his current commanding officer. Brooks held out a data pad with barely hidden satisfaction. "Escort duty," Brooks said. "Ambassador Reed needs transport to the Galactic Summit. You leave at 0600 tomorrow." Jack took the pad without a word. Escort duty was what they gave to pilots they wanted to forget, far from any real action, babysitting diplomats who spent their time talking instead of doing. "The ambassador specifically asked for you," Brooks added, his smile fading slightly. "Seems your reputation has reached certain ears." Jack's reputation had spread across the Earth Defense Force after the Battle of Mars. He had saved 3 transport ships full of civilians by flying in ways that broke every rule in the combat manual. His superiors called it reckless. The civilians called it heroic. His commanding officers settled on demoted. "What ship am I getting?" Jack asked, scrolling through the assignment details. "The Persistence." Jack looked up sharply. "That's a Class 3 shuttle, not even a proper warship." Brooks shrugged. "Budget cuts, besides it's just escort duty through friendly space. The Alliance promised safe passage. The Alliance of Advanced Species had welcomed humans to the galactic community 5 years ago. Welcomed was the polite term in diplomatic circles. Tolerated was more accurate. To the older species who had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, humans were noisy children newly arrived at the adults' table. The next morning, Jack stood before the Persistence with growing doubt. The ship was small, with an outdated hull design and visible patch repairs. Ambassador Reed, a tall woman with silver hair and perfect posture, waited beside it. "Pilot Miller," she greeted him. "Your reputation precedes you." "So I keep hearing," Jack replied. "Ma'am, with respect, this ship isn't suitable for breaking rules." She raised an eyebrow. "I requested you specifically because you think differently. The Alliance considers humans primitive. I want them to remember we can be unpredictable, too." Jack studied her with new interest. "You're playing politics with my flying skills?" "I'm using every tool available," she corrected. "This summit will decide if humans get a real voice in galactic affairs or remain second-class citizens forever." 3 days into their journey through the neutral zone, Jack's unease grew. The ship's sensors were picking up strange energy readings that didn't match any known patterns. Could be sensor ghosts, he told Reed as they studied the display. This ship isn't exactly top of the line. Or, she prompted, or someone's using scramblers to hide their approach. Jack frowned at the screen. But the Alliance promised safe passage, and pirates don't usually come this far into monitored space. The answer came 30 minutes later when 3 ships dropped, out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. Their designs were angular and predatory, painted with red markings that identified them as free traders, the polite term for pirates in this sector. "Ambassador, secure yourself in the safety pod," Jack ordered, sliding into the pilot's seat. "Standard procedure is to surrender to pirates and wait for rescue." Reed was already strapping herself in. "And what will you do, Pilot Miller?" Jack's hands flew across the controls, bringing the ship's modest defenses online. "I never was good at standard procedure," the comm system crackled. "Human vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is not advised." Jack opened a channel. "This is a diplomatic vessel under Alliance protection. The ambassador to the summit is aboard." "Then the ambassador will make an excellent bargaining chip," the pirate captain replied. "Power down now or be destroyed." Jack cut the communication and turned to Reed. "They're too confident. Pirates would be more nervous about attacking a diplomatic ship." The first shots fired across their bow confirmed his suspicions. The patterns were too precise, the formation too disciplined. "Those aren't pirates," Jack muttered. "They're military, disguised as pirates." He pushed the Persistence into a tight spin as energy beams carved the space where they had been. The ship groaned, under forces it wasn't designed to handle. "Can we outrun them?" Reed asked, her voice steady despite the situation. "No," Jack replied, studying the enemy formation. "But they expect us to try. They expect standard evasion patterns." Jack smiled grimly. "So let's show them something non-standard." He cut all forward thrust and fired the maneuvering jets in a pattern that sent the small ship tumbling backward while still moving forward from momentum. The pirate ships overshot their position, confused by the illogical maneuver. "What are you doing?" Reed gasped as the artificial gravity struggled to compensate. "Using physics," Jack replied. "They're flying by the book. I threw the book away years ago." He fired the ship's single-point defense laser, not at the enemy ships, but at a specific angle into empty space. The beam reflected off the polished hull of the nearest attacker, splitting into 3 weaker beams that hit vital sensor nodes on all 3 enemy vessels. While their targeting systems reset, Jack executed a maneuver that human physicists had theorized, but no pilot had ever attempted. In combat, by alternating the ship's thruster patterns in a precise sequence, he created a ripple effect in the local spacetime that momentarily confused all standard targeting algorithms. In that brief window, he fired the Persistence's modest weapons directly into the exposed engine section of the lead ship. The explosion damaged the other 2 ships, leaving them drifting. "How?" Reed stared at him. "The Alliance said that kind of spatial manipulation was impossible at sub-light speeds." Jack checked the ship's systems. They had taken damage, but nothing critical. "Humans think differently," he said simply. Then he pointed to the lead ship's debris. "And those aren't pirate markings under the paint. That's a Dominion military seal." Reed's face paled. "The Dominion has been pushing for war with Earth for years. If they're staging fake pirate attacks, then we need to get you to that summit," Jack finished. "With evidence." As they limped toward the diplomatic station, neither of them realized that combat footage from the Persistence's external cameras was already spreading across the galactic networks, showing something the older species had never seen before: a human pilot rewriting the rules of space combat. The war had already begun. The diplomatic station hung in space like a massive metal flower, its petals formed by docking bays extending from a central core. When the damaged Persistence limped into its assigned bay, emergency crews rushed to meet it, their faces showing surprise at the ship's condition. Jack helped Ambassador Reed down the ramp, both of them tired but determined. A small group of officials waited, including a tall blue-skinned alien with ridge-like features and formal military dress. "Ambassador Reed," the station commander greeted her. "We received your emergency transmission. Are you unharmed?" "Thanks. To Pilot Miller, yes," Reed replied. She gestured to the ship. "We have evidence that needs to be presented to the summit immediately." The blue-skinned alien stepped forward, towering over Jack. "Evidence of pirate activity? Regrettable, but hardly summit business." "Admiral Coron," Reed acknowledged with a cold nod. These weren't pirates, they were Dominion military vessels disguised as pirates. Coron's face remained impassive, but his inner eyelids flickered, a sign of surprise in his species. "A serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Jack held up a data chip. "Combat recordings and debris analysis. The Dominion seal was visible, under the fake pirate markings." "Impossible," Coron dismissed. "No single pilot in a diplomatic shuttle could defeat 3 combat vessels regardless of their origin." Jack met the alien's four-eyed gaze steadily. "Then I guess impossible things happen sometimes." The emergency summit session buzzed with tension. Representatives from 27 species filled the chamber, their voices creating a storm of different languages that the translation system struggled to keep up with. On the main display, the combat footage from the Persistence played. Jack watched the recording with professional detachment, noting details he'd missed in the heat of battle. His spatial maneuver looked even stranger from outside. The ship seemed to flicker and distort as it moved in ways that defied conventional physics. The Dominion representative, Commander Vell, rose to speak when the recording ended. His species resembled tall, thin humans with gray skin and eyes that reflected light like a cat's. "This is clearly fabricated," Vell insisted. "The movements shown are physically impossible. The human is trying to provoke conflict with these false accusations." "I can assure you the footage is authentic," Reed countered. "And the maneuvers, while unusual, are quite possible. Just not according to your combat doctrines." Admiral Coron studied the replay with narrowed eyes. "No ship can change vector that way without tearing itself apart. The physics don't allow it." From the back of the room, a voice called out, "Actually, they do." Heads turned as a stocky human with wild brown hair pushed through the crowd. He wore the patch of the station's engineering corps on his jumpsuit. "Tom Hayes," he introduced himself, nodding respectfully to the assembly. "Station physics specialist. I've reviewed the footage, and what Pilot Miller did is theoretically sound, just never successfully implemented before." Hayes brought up a holographic display showing equations and force diagrams. "Human neural processing allows for faster spatial calculations than most species. We think differently about three-dimensional movement." Jack found himself nodding. He'd never thought about the physics behind his flying. He just did what felt right in the moment. "Even if this is true," Commander Vell interjected, "it proves nothing about the identity of the attackers." "Except for this," Ambassador Reed said, and nodded to a technician. The display changed to show a magnified image of debris floating in space, clearly showing a Dominion military seal beneath scratched-off pirate markings. The chamber erupted in chaos. After the session adjourned in disorder, Jack found himself in a quiet corner of the station's observation deck, watching distant stars. He sensed someone approach and turned to find Tom Hayes grinning at him. "The famous rule breaker," Hayes said, extending his hand. "Your flying is going to revolutionize combat theory." Jack shook the offered hand. "I was just trying to stay alive." "That's the beauty of it," Hayes replied, excitement clear in his voice. "You've discovered something profound because you weren't constrained by what everyone knows is impossible." He pulled out a small device and projected a model of the Persistence's flight path. "See here? You created a localized distortion in space-time that the targeting systems couldn't predict. The Alliance races can't do that because their neural pathways process spatial relationships differently." "You're saying humans are special?" Jack asked skeptically. "I'm saying we're different," Hayes corrected. "Not better, just we see patterns others don't and miss patterns they see." A shadow fell across them. Admiral Coron had approached silently, his expression unreadable. "Your maneuver was unexpected," the Admiral admitted reluctantly. "In 300 years, Of combat experience, I have never seen such an approach. Jack wasn't sure if that was a compliment. Necessity breeds innovation. Perhaps. Corin's inner eyelids flickered again. But innovation can be dangerous, especially when it spreads. He handed Jack a tablet showing feeds from across galactic networks. Jack's combat footage had leaked and gone viral. Discussions, analyses, and attempts to replicate his maneuvers were happening everywhere. Human pilots across 3 sectors are already attempting to reproduce your techniques, Corin said gravely. The Dominion sees this as a military threat. Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The emergency communication system activated. "Attention all personnel," the station commander's voice announced. "We have received reports of Dominion fleet movements near human colonies. They are calling it a preventative security operation. All representatives please return to the summit chamber immediately." Tom Hayes' face paled. "They're afraid of what you've shown is possible." "Because of one pilot?" Jack asked in disbelief. "Admiral," Corin's expression was grim. "Because of what one pilot represents. A new way of fighting that their defenses aren't prepared for." He turned to leave, then paused. "In my experience, fear is the most common reason for starting wars." As they hurried back to the summit chamber, Jack saw his combat footage playing on screens throughout the station. What had been a desperate fight for survival was now something else. A symbol, a challenge to the established order of space. Combat. On one screen, a Dominion official was speaking. "These human combat techniques represent an unacceptable security risk to established galactic peace. We must act decisively to contain this threat before it spreads." Jack felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had only been trying to survive, to complete his mission. Now, without intending to, he had provided the spark that might ignite a galactic war. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice whispered that perhaps this confrontation had been inevitable from the moment humans reached for the stars. The summit chamber had transformed from a place of diplomatic discussion to a war room in less than 6 hours. Emergency lights cast harsh shadows across worried faces as representatives argued loudly. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed Dominion warships moving toward human settlements near the border regions. Jack stood beside Ambassador Reed, watching the chaos unfold. The Dominion's representative, Commander Vell, had conveniently disappeared before the emergency session began. "They're calling it a security operation," Reed said, her voice tight with anger. 23 ships against farming colonies with no military presence. Admiral Corin approached them, his blue skin looking almost gray under the emergency lighting. "The Dominion Council claims they are neutralizing a strategic threat." He looked directly at Jack. "You? That's absurd," Tom Hayes protested, joining the group. "They're attacking civilians because of one pilot's defensive maneuver?" "Not the maneuver itself," Corin corrected. "What it represents. The footage of your battle has been viewed by millions across the galaxy. Human pilots everywhere are experimenting with new techniques based on your approach." Jack felt a cold weight in his stomach. "I didn't ask for any of this." "Few who change history ever do," Corin replied. The main display shifted to show a transmission from Earth Defense Headquarters. The stern face of Admiral Chen filled the screen. "The Dominion has declared all human vessels to be potential military threats," Chen reported. "They've given us an ultimatum. Ground our entire fleet or face open conflict." Reed stepped forward. "Admiral, we have evidence that the Dominion staged the attack on our diplomatic shuttle. They're creating a pretext for war." "We've seen the evidence," Chen confirmed. "But grounding our fleet would leave Earth defenseless. The Security Council has rejected their demands." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. "So it begins," Corin said quietly. 3 days later, Jack found himself in a hastily repurposed laboratory on the diplomatic station. Tom Hayes had converted the space into a tactical simulation center with screens showing combat data from the increasing skirmishes between human and Dominion forces. "The problem," Hayes explained to Jack and Admiral Corin, "is that your maneuver only works once. The Dominion is already adapting their targeting systems." Jack nodded grimly. Reports from the front lines confirmed it. The trick that had saved the Persistence wouldn't work again. The Dominion ships were now programmed to predict the spatial distortion effect. But that's just one technique, Jack said. If humans really do process spatial relationships differently, there must be other approaches. Coron, who had surprisingly offered his expertise to the humans, manipulated the holographic display. Traditional combat doctrine is based on power and position. Bigger ships, better position, more firepower. That's been the way of space warfare for 1,000 years. But we don't have bigger ships, Jack pointed out. No, Hayes agreed with a growing smile. But what if we use our different way of seeing space to change how small ships work together? For the next 12 hours, the unlikely trio worked on something new, a combat formation that Hayes dubbed the Swarm Dance. It utilized multiple, smaller vessels moving in patterns that created confusion in standard targeting systems. It's like a flock of birds, Jack explained as they ran simulations. Each individual follows simple rules, but the group creates complex patterns that are hard to predict. Impossible to predict, Coron corrected, studying the results with growing respect. Because the pattern emerges from the group, not from a central command. As they refined the technique, news arrived that the Alliance Council had fractured. Several species had aligned with the Dominion against the human threat, while others remained neutral. Only a few had spoken in humanity's defense. We're running out of time, Hayes said, looking at a display showing Dominion forces advancing on the Proxima colony. Then we need to test this now, Jack replied. He turned to Coron. I need a ship. The command center of Earth Defense Force Outpost Delta 7 buzzed with nervous energy as Jack explained the swarm dance technique to 12 human pilots. These weren't the elite forces. They were patrol pilots, border guards, and courier runners, the only ones close enough to intercept the Dominion fleet heading for Proxima Colony. This breaks every rule in the manual, one pilot objected. That's the point, Jack replied. They expect us to follow rules. Their rules. Rules designed for their way of thinking. He showed them the simulation again. Trust your instincts. Humans have always been good at seeing patterns others miss. As the pilots prepared to launch in their mismatched collection of vessels, Admiral Coron approached Jack. I've analyzed your chances, the alien said quietly. The Dominion fleet outguns you 10-1. Jack nodded. I know. Yet you still go. Those colonists have no other defense, Jack said simply. Something changed in Coron's four-eyed gaze. A new respect, perhaps even understanding. Then I will join you. Jack blinked in surprise. You're an Alliance admiral. If you fight against the Dominion, I am sworn to protect peace, Coron replied. Sometimes that requires taking sides. The battle at Proxima's orbital approach became the stuff of legends. 13 small ships against a Dominion battle group should have been a massacre. Instead, it became the first demonstration of the swarm dance. The human vessels moved in seemingly random patterns that actually followed complex mathematical relationships. They appeared to be everywhere and nowhere, their movements impossible to predict by traditional targeting algorithms. Coron's ship provided covering fire as Jack led the swarm through the heart of the Dominion formation. The enemy vessels, accustomed to fighting in orderly patterns, found themselves firing at empty space as the humans danced between their shots. For 30 minutes, the impossible battle continued. The human ships darted and wove, landing precise hits on Dominion weapons and sensors while avoiding their main guns. They didn't try to destroy the larger vessels, just disable them. When it ended, 7 of the 13 small ships had been damaged, but all remained operational. The Dominion fleet, though largely intact, was in disarray. Their formation had collapsed, and 3 of their main vessels had lost weapons capability. As the Dominion ships retreated, communications channels across the galaxy lit up with the news. A handful of small ships had forced a major Dominion battle group to withdraw. More importantly, the battle footage showed something that shocked military strategists throughout the galaxy. Humans weren't fighting to destroy. They had deliberately targeted weapons and sensors while avoiding life support and crew quarters. You could have destroyed their command ship, Coron noted as they watched the Dominion retreat. Why didn't you? Jack looked at the alien who had become an unexpected ally. Because this isn't about destroying enemies. It's about showing there's another way to fight, and another way to end fights. As they returned to the outpost, news arrived that human colonies across 3 sectors were reporting Dominion ships withdrawing from orbit. The immediate threat had passed, but something more significant had changed. The galaxy now knew that humans didn't just fight differently. They thought differently about what winning meant, and that made them more dangerous, or more valuable, than anyone had imagined. The war had escalated, but so had the stakes, and Jack Miller, once a demoted pilot on escort duty, had become the face of a revolution in space combat that could change the balance of power forever. The name Rule Breaker followed Jack Miller everywhere now. It was whispered in the corridors of the diplomatic station, flashed across information networks throughout human space, and spoken with either fear or admiration in alien councils. 2 weeks after the battle at Proxima, humanity found itself in an unexpected position, respected and feared in equal measure. Jack hated it. I didn't ask to be a symbol, he told Tom Hayes as they worked in their makeshift tactical lab. The space had grown since their first days, with additional screens and simulation equipment provided by Earth Defense Command. Symbols rarely volunteer for the job, Hayes replied, manipulating a holographic display showing the latest Dominion fleet movements. But the swarm dance technique has given our colonies a fighting chance. Jack nodded reluctantly. Reports from across human space confirm that smaller defense forces using the new tactics could hold their own against numerically superior Dominion fleets. For the first time since the conflict began, humanity wasn't just running and hiding. Admiral Coron entered the lab, his blue face showing signs of fatigue. As the only Alliance admiral to openly side with humans, he'd been officially censured by his government but allowed to remain as an observer, a thin excuse that let him continue helping without his species officially taking sides. They're adapting, Coron announced without preamble, transferring data to the main display. The Dominion has developed specialized countermeasures for the swarm dance. The screen showed footage from a recent battle near Europa Station. Human ships moved in the now familiar swarm pattern, but Dominion vessels released clouds of micro-drones that created a targeting mesh, predicting movement corridors, and forcing the human ships into predictable evasion patterns. 3 human defense ships lost, Coron reported grimly. The Dominion is learning. Jack studied the footage closely. Then we need to learn faster. For days, the 3 worked on developing new tactics. The swarm dance had bought valuable time, but its effectiveness was declining as Dominion forces adapted. They needed something more fundamental, something that couldn't be easily countered. The problem is physics itself, Hayes said late one night, rubbing his tired eyes. We're still bound by the same laws of movement as everyone else, even if we visualize them differently. Jack stared at the equations floating in the holographic display. What if we weren't? Hayes looked up. What do you mean? Quantum mechanics, Jack said slowly, an idea forming. At the quantum level, particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Theoretical physics isn't going to help us in combat, Hayes objected. But Coron had grown very still. Perhaps it could, the alien said quietly. There are rumors of experimental Dominion technology based on quantum uncertainty principles. Jack leaned forward. What kind of technology? Nothing proven, Coron cautioned, but there are reports of ships appearing to be in 2 places at once, confusing sensor systems. Hayes' eyes widened. Quantum superposition applied to macroscopic objects? That should be impossible. Many things should be impossible, Jack replied with a hint of a smile, until someone does them anyway. For the next 3 days they worked on a concept Hayes dubbed the quantum shadow, a technique that used specialized field generators to create a temporary quantum uncertainty field around a ship. The field wouldn't make the ship truly exist in multiple locations, but it would create enough sensor confusion to make targeting systems uncertain about the ship's exact position. It's not true quantum superposition, Hayes explained to the pilot selected to test the technique. But it creates a similar effect for a few crucial seconds, long enough to evade targeting or land a precise hit. And it requires human spatial intuition, Jack added. The pilot has to navigate based on feeling rather than instruments while the field is active. Most non-human species can't process the spatial disorientation. The pilots looked skeptical, but the growing casualty reports from across human space silenced most objections. They needed something new, something the Dominion couldn't easily counter. As testing of the quantum shadow technique progressed, Admiral Coron received a secure transmission from his homeworld. Jack found the Admiral in his quarters afterward, studying ancient-looking symbols on a datapad. Bad news? Jack asked. Coron seemed lost in thought. Perhaps illuminating news. He gestured for Jack to sit. My government has granted me access to historical archives not shared with humans before. They're still helping us? I thought your species was officially neutral. Some truths transcend current politics, Coron replied. These records suggest humans aren't the first species to demonstrate your unconventional approach to space, physics. Jack leaned forward. There were others? Coron nodded. A species called the predecessors, who vanished from galactic records about 15,000 years ago. There are fragmentary accounts of them using combat techniques that defied conventional understanding of space-time relationships. What happened to them? Coron's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort. The records are unclear. There was conflict with ancient power structures, then nothing. They simply disappear from history. A chill ran down Jack's spine. You think the same could happen to humans? I think, Coron said carefully, that those who challenge established ways of understanding the universe often face resistance, sometimes violent resistance. Before Jack could respond, an alarm blared throughout the station. The tactical display in Coron's quarters activated automatically, showing a massive Dominion fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Proxima Colony. They're back, Jack said, already moving toward the door, and in much greater numbers. The battle for Proxima Colony would later be called the turning point of the conflict. 23 human ships equipped with prototype quantum shadow generators faced a Dominion battle group of over 70 vessels. On paper, it was a hopeless mismatch. But for the first crucial minutes, the new technique worked perfectly. Human ships flickered in and out of sensor certainty, appearing to be in multiple locations at once. Dominion targeting systems failed to get clear locks, while the human pilots, navigating by instinct during the quantum uncertainty, landed precise hits on key systems. Jack led the defense from the newly commissioned ship Defiance, coordinating the human response while demonstrating the effectiveness of the quantum shadow firsthand. For 20 minutes, victory seemed possible. Then the Dominion adapted again. They switched to wide dispersal weapons that didn't require precise targeting, filling space with so much destructive energy that exact location became irrelevant. The quantum uncertainty field provided no protection against this brute force approach. Fall back to secondary positions, Jack ordered as the first human ships began to report critical damage. Proximity formation, focus fire on their command vessels. But it was too late for a coordinated response. The human squadron was scattered, their formation broken by the Dominion's overwhelming firepower. Jack watched in horror as ship after ship reported critical failures or went silent entirely. The Defiance shuddered as a direct hit overloaded its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems failed. Quantum generator offline, the tactical officer reported. We're visible to all targeting systems. Jack made a split-second decision. All power to engines. Get us between the Dominion fleet and the colony. As the damaged ship limped into position as a makeshift shield for the civilian colony below, Jack opened a channel to all remaining human vessels. Defensive positions only, he ordered. Protect the evacuation transports at all costs. The battle had been lost, but as the remaining human ships formed a last defensive line around the civilian evacuation, something unexpected happened. The Dominion fleet, poised for the killing blow, hesitated. Their holding position, the sensor officer reported in disbelief. On the main communication channel, a transmission from the Dominion command ship appeared. The stern face of a high-ranking Dominion officer filled the screen. "Your tactics are unconventional, human," the officer said. "But even more unexpected is your willingness to sacrifice yourselves for non-combatants." Jack met the alien's gaze steadily. "That's what soldiers do. We protect those who can't protect themselves." A long moment of silence followed. "The evacuation ships will be granted safe passage," the Dominion officer finally said. "But this colony is now under Dominion control. Any human military vessel remaining in the system after the evacuation will be destroyed." As the transmission ended, Jack slumped in his command chair. They had lost the battle in the colony, but the civilians would survive, and perhaps more. Importantly, something had changed in how the Dominion saw humanity. It wasn't just human combat tactics that were unexpected, it was human values. As the Defiance limped away from Proxima with the last evacuation ships, Jack knew that innovation alone wouldn't win this war. The Dominion would always adapt to new tactics eventually. They needed something more fundamental, something that would change the nature of the conflict itself. They needed to understand why the Dominion truly feared humanity's different way of thinking. The emergency council chamber aboard the Earth Alliance flagship Determination hummed with tense voices. 3 months had passed since the battle at Proxima Colony. The war had settled into a grinding stalemate. Humans continued to develop innovative tactics, and the Dominion continued to adapt. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage, but the human colonies were paying the heaviest price. Jack stood at the viewport, staring at the distant stars while Admiral Coron and Tom Hayes argued with Earth's military leadership. Dark circles marked Jack's eyes. He hadn't slept properly since Proxima. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the ships lost under his command. "The quantum shadow technique isn't enough," General Ward was saying. "We need something more decisive." "More destructive, you mean?" Hayes countered. "We've been down that path. The Dominion simply escalates in response." Jack turned from the viewport. "Why do they fear us so much? That's the question we should be asking." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. "They attacked us first," General Ward reminded him. "They disguised their ships as pirates and tried to destroy a diplomatic vessel." "But why?" Jack pressed. "What made them so afraid of humans that they risked galactic war to contain us?" Admiral Coron stepped forward, holding the ancient datapad he had been studying for weeks. "I believe I may have found an answer." He placed the pad on the central display table, and holographic symbols filled the air above it, text in a language no human had seen before. "These are records from the predecessor civilization I mentioned," Coron explained. "My government granted full access to the archives after Proxima. What we found is troubling." The symbols shifted, forming patterns that the translation system struggled to convert. The predecessors were feared because they were what the ancient texts call pattern breakers, Coron continued. Beings who could perceive relationships in space-time that other species could not. The ancient powers feared this ability because it represented unpredictability. "Like humanity's spatial intuition," Hayes said quietly. Coron nodded. "There's more. The texts speak of a prophecy that pattern breakers would one day return and either bring chaos to the galaxy or usher in a new age of understanding. The Dominion leadership believes humans are these returning pattern breakers." Jack stared at the ancient symbols. "They're fighting us because of a prophecy?" "Fear rarely needs logical justification," Coron replied. "Especially fear of the unknown." General Ward frowned. "This is all very interesting, but how does it help us end this war?" Jack's mind was racing through possibilities. "It means we've been fighting the wrong battle. We've been trying to win through better combat techniques, but that just confirms their fears about us." He looked around the room. "What if instead of showing how humans fight differently, we show how humans can create differently?" For the next week, Jack, Hayes, and Coron worked with a team of Earth's best engineers on something completely new. Not a weapon or combat technique, but a revolutionary propulsion system that combined human spatial intuition with the quantum principles they had discovered while developing the quantum shadow. If this works, Hayes explained to the council, it will allow faster-than-light travel without the massive energy requirements of current systems. Smaller ships, less fuel, safer transitions between normal space and FTL. And how does a new engine end a war? General Ward asked skeptically. Because we're going to give it away, Jack said simply. The silence that followed was profound. Give away our most advanced technology? To the enemy? Ward finally spluttered. Jack nodded. To everyone, the Dominion, the Alliance, Independent, worlds. Everyone gets the same technology, the same advantages. That's unprecedented, one of the council members said. Exactly, Jack replied. That's the point. We show them that pattern breakers don't have to bring chaos. We can bring progress if they'll let us. The test of the new propulsion system was scheduled to take place in neutral space, with observers from all major galactic powers invited to witness it. As preparations continued, long-range sensors detected a massive Dominion fleet approaching the test site. They're not here to observe, General Ward warned. They're here to destroy the prototype before we can demonstrate it. Jack studied the tactical display. The human defensive fleet was outnumbered 3-1. Then we need to show them something else first. He turned to Corrin. I need your help, and I need the Defiance ready to launch in 1 hour. The Defiance, repaired and upgraded since Proxima, moved ahead of the human defensive line as the Dominion fleet approached. Behind it, the prototype ship with the new drive system remained on standby, its revolutionary engine humming with potential. Dominion command vessel is hailing us, the communications officer reported. On screen, Jack ordered. The face of Commander Vel, the Dominion representative who had disappeared from the diplomatic station months ago, appeared on the main display. This demonstration will not proceed, Vel stated flatly. The pattern breaker. Technology must be contained. Jack met his gaze calmly. You've been fighting us because you think we'll bring chaos to the established order. What if you're wrong? The prophecy? Prophecies can be interpreted many ways, Jack interrupted. The text speaks of pattern breakers bringing either chaos or understanding. Which outcome happens depends not just on us, but on how you choose to respond to us. Vel's expression remained cold. Words will not deter us. The prototype will be destroyed. Jack nodded as if expecting this answer. Then perhaps a demonstration of a different kind will. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Activate the quantum shadow. The Defiance's experimental system powered up, creating the now familiar quantum uncertainty field around the ship. But instead of using it to evade or attack, Jack ordered the ship directly toward the heart of the Dominion fleet. Sir? The helm officer questioned. Trust me, Jack said. And signal Admiral Corrin. Execute Phase 2. As the Defiance approached the Dominion formation, something unexpected happened. The quantum field expanded, encompassing not just the human ship, but the nearest Dominion vessels as well. On all ships, sensors fluctuated wildly as the boundaries between them seemed to blur. What is happening? Vel demanded over an open channel, his voice betraying fear for the first time. We call it a quantum bridge, Jack replied. A shared state of quantum uncertainty between vessels. Right now, your ships and mine exist in a connected state. We can either emerge from it as enemies or as something else. In the strange quantum space between certainties, Jack could almost feel the presence of the Dominion crews, their confusion, their fear, but also their curiosity. In that moment of connection, understanding flowed both ways. You can destroy us, Jack continued, or you can join us in creating something new. The choice has always been yours. For a long moment, there was silence across all communication channels. Then, slowly, the Dominion weapons powered down. We will observe your demonstration, Vel finally said. The prototype ship with the new drive system performed flawlessly, transitioning to faster-than-light travel with less than a tenth of the energy required by conventional systems. More importantly, the detailed specifications and theoretical principles were transmitted to all observers simultaneously. No secrets, no hidden advantages. As the demonstration concluded, representatives from both the Dominion and Alliance requested emergency sessions to discuss the implications. For the first time since the conflict began, genuine diplomatic talks replaced military posturing. 1 week later, Jack found himself back on the observation deck of the diplomatic station, where everything had started. Admiral Coron joined him, watching as ships from dozens of species moved through nearby space, no longer in combat formations but in orderly traffic patterns. The quantum bridge was a significant risk, Coron observed. You had no way of knowing how they would react to such intimacy with a human ship. Jack smiled faintly. Sometimes you have to break the rules of engagement entirely. The provisional peace accord is holding, Coron noted. The Dominion has withdrawn from human colonies, and your government has shared the propulsion technology as promised. And the prophecy about pattern breakers? Coron's inner eyelids flickered, an expression Jack now recognized as amusement. Reinterpreted, as prophecies often are. Now they say pattern breakers were meant to challenge existing patterns so new ones could emerge, not to bring chaos but to prevent stagnation. Jack gazed out at the stars. And the truth? Truth is rarely simple, Coron replied. Humans do think differently than most species. That makes you unpredictable, which can be frightening. But it also makes you innovative, which can be valuable. The galaxy needed both perspectives, the stability of established patterns and the creativity to break them when necessary. A small ship approached the station, the first vessel built by a joint Human-Dominion engineering team, using the new propulsion system combined with Dominion defensive technology. What will you do now? Coron asked. The pilot who rewrote the rules of space combat has become something of a legend, Jack smiled. I think I'd like to teach, not just humans, but anyone who wants to learn a different way of seeing space. Coron nodded approval. The new Interspecies Flight Academy would welcome such an instructor. As they watched the joint-designed ship dock smoothly with the station, Jack thought about how a desperate maneuver to save one small diplomatic vessel had cascaded into a war and then into an unexpected peace. The rules of space combat had indeed been rewritten, but so had the rules of space cooperation. And perhaps that had been the point all along. Not to win through destruction, but to show that seeing the universe differently didn't have to be a threat. It could be the greatest gift one species could offer another. Behind them, the first class of the new academy, pilots from 20 different species, including both humans and Dominion, waited to learn how to see space through each other's eyes. The war was over. The learning had just begun,